Hi, I'm Case Lowe, co-host of the Open the Voice Gate podcast. The one question I'm constantly asked when it comes to Dragon Gate is, how do I get into the promotion? Well, stop asking and start listening to the Open the Voice Gate podcast, released every Wednesday on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. For exclusive news and show reviews, look no further than the leader in Dragon Gate coverage, Open the Voice Gate.
Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney, and every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Na-na-na-na, na-na-na-na, hey, 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 goodbye. Suck it, CM Punk, you are gone from this damn company. Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Hungee. I'm your host, Tyler Fornes. With me, as always, Fred. 11 days since the last workplace incident in Moreland. Fred, we are finally going to be rid of talking about Cookie Monster Punk after this show. And let me tell you, it feels great.
Be careful what you say, because there's still the possibility that there's going to be more news coming out of this. It has been a tremendously quiet week, but do not forget that we'll have to cover any drama that happens after the fact, after his release. So
yeah, I can deal with drama from other people dealing with like the fallout. He won't be the catalyst anymore. We won't be actually talking about him doing something stupid. We won't be talking about him pushing somebody in the workplace or threatening someone or being a nuisance backstage or trying to corner the Young Bucks. Punk is gone. And we can finally rejoice. All Out was almost like a healing show. And it felt great. And we're going to talk so much about it. But let's kind of break down everything that happened. Saturday afternoon, I'm driving to go play mini golf with the wife, and she won't hear this, so I can actually say it. I was very upset with that because I wanted to watch South Florida versus Western Kentucky, but I pull into the golf course, so it's like a sculpture garden. Like it's kind of got like sculptures within the holes, so it's kind of a cool little gimmick. But I pull in and I pull up the Slack, and all I see is Joe Lanza putting CM Punk fired with cause. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God, we finally got what we wanted. And the Tony Khan, look, we've talked a lot about Tony Khan needing to take control of his company. He, based on everything we know, the outwardly facing information, he sent Punk and Perry home. He waited for an internal investigation, and he took his outside counsel's advice, fired Punk with cause based on this incident and every other incident, which we will lay out here, at least the ones that we know. And there's a high possibility we missed one or two because there's been so many of them. And they all recommended that he be fired with cause. And when a lot of lawyers say you should be fired with cause, Punk can try and sue, but I don't think it'll go anywhere. And the one thing that was really impressive to me about this whole situation, Fred, he went out in front of a Chicago crowd and took the heat and spoke from the heart and took it all. He knew he was going to get it. He let them give it to him. And we did find out that after that intro to Collision, over 75,000 viewers stopped watching immediately because Punk was not going to be on the show. That's come from WrestleNomics, so you know it's legit.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's Khan is taking control of this company based on everything we know. And he took all the heat. He said, hey, I had to do it. This is why. Best wishes. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to go in front of a Chicago crowd and say, hey, I fired your hero. But he did. He didn't have to tape a vignette where he looks like he's being held at gunpoint. It's just they're so weird because he just feels so uncomfortable doing them. But he did. And good for him. Good for him for finally doing what we believed was the right thing for months, getting rid of cancer.
Yeah. Now that 75,000 number is really notable because the overall viewership for Collision on average was 345,000. So like that is a tremendous chunk of what the audience would have been. I doubt that those 75 would have stayed throughout the show, but still it's very interesting. And Collision is going to get ravaged by college football as the season goes on, but that's nothing new. Very obviously, this is arguably the biggest AEW story since probably Brawl In. I guess I was going to say CM Punk's return, but I think it's probably not as big as Brawl In at this point. What a run! What a 3-month return to the company.
Oh God.
Talk about speed running your exit.
That's good. That's good, man.
Let's talk about different interesting things about this. First of all, in that press release, and it's been talked about some since then, but one of those things that I picked up on immediately is that the first sentence is All Elite Wrestling AEW has terminated the wrestler and employment agreements between Phillip Brooks, CM Punk, and AEW with cause effective immediately. That agreements specifically specifying wrestler and employment was very interesting because that pretty obviously indicates that Punk was under some kind of deal beyond just being a wrestler. Now, was that just like a sweetheart position, or was that like a way to compensate him for, any kind of creative input he had or anything like that? I don't know.
It could have been a dummy position for benefits.
100%. Yeah.
But it was something else other than just being a wrestler.
Yeah. And it's very interesting to me that we finally have some confirmation that it was more than just Punk as a wrestler beyond like him saying, I'm trying to run a business here at Brawl In, this press conference, or, all that stuff. So other news here just to talk about with this whole situation. Tony Khan, when he did his thing on Collision, said that it was the first time at a wrestling show in all the years he's gone to them that he was afraid for his well-being and his life. And he also mentioned being concerned for the well-being of people like production staff and other non-wrestlers like guests. I think he also mentioned. Meltzer reported that there's video cameras all over backstage of Wembley. And also that where this incident happened is an area commonly used for interviews for soccer games. So most likely there was extensive footage of this. And then Meltzer on his radio show said that, or Observer Radio, not really a radio show, said that the neutral statement, the statement from the Neutral Observer that he published in the last Observer issue is probably the most accurate of any description of what happened from what he had heard. So let's go through that real quick.
Okay.
This is a verbatim quote from last week's Wrestling Observer newsletter. Another version, and I'm going to read this to you with all the Dave Meltzerisms intact because that's part of the experience. Another version of this would be a neutral source who was not a wrestler but was there and witnessed it, and his version was that right after Perry came to the back, Punk went nose to nose with him aggressively and asked if he had a problem. That person said Perry said he was just looking to get heat as a heel. Punk shoved him hard, Perry got in his face, and in that version, Punk sucker punched him and went for a choke. People immediately broke it up, and Khan was yelling at Punk to let him go. That person said that once they were separated, Punk lunged in Khan's direction, but a number of people got in his way while Punk was yelling, I quit. Monitors were knocked down during all of this. Samoa Joe was very upset and went to calm Punk down. And then Meltzer also said that when he said Punk lunged at Khan, that was an understatement, that we did not specify what would have been more accurate. And also Meltzer made it sound like that on Punk's return, that Punk signed a new contract that made it clear that he would be fired if he basically started another fight or other nonsense like this. And as one side note to this whole situation, Ace Steel is still with AEW. There's absolutely no news on that situation changing. I expect he'll probably be there until the end of his contract. Will he be just like partitioned off to, go play mini golf or whatever for the rest of his contract? Possible, but I doubt he'll get fired for anything new. So yeah, I think what this means, and of course, the firing for cause means that CM Punk is not going to get paid whatever was due to him on the remnant of the contract he was on, or contracts he was on. So I think that's pretty indicative of how comfortable AEW felt about making this move. I don't think there's a shred of concern about this backfiring on them, basically. And I think it's I don't know, what an end to an era and an error, if you will.
Fred, the era of CM Punk couldn't have come to any different of an end. It
just felt inevitable, especially after his return, when like stuff just kept happening. It seemed like every week.
And it not only that, but then you have the reports coming out of potentially him trying to get fired and him hating it. And something got leaked over the course of the last week that he had tried to go to WWE. As early as December,
when he was still under contract, like a brain genius. But yeah, he tried to, reach out to them and be like, "Hey, would y'all like to hire me so I can quit this place?" And I think WWE either just didn't respond or like, we're good right now. That is very interesting. And, I don't think there'll be any like outright lawsuits or anything over it, but that is a potential, contract tampering situation for WWE. If they made any serious inquiry, well, it's not even inquiries. Like, you can ask if someone's under contract, but if you try to woo them over, that would be a different situation. Just something to keep in the back of your mind, I think. But yeah, this is just, if you wanted out, you could have just quit. It's the thing. You could have just said, "I don't want to come back, man."
I think the reason why, and this is just me speculating, because I want that to be clear, because there's so much we don't know, and there's so much that we can kind of look between the lines and try and figure out. One thing that I believe is that he was trying to get fired with cause, so he didn't have to have a wait period where he didn't have a 90-day, or like, let's say hypothetically he had a 5-year contract. Tony Khan's like, "Yeah, I'll let you out. You can't wrestle anywhere for until the duration of the contract is done, but I'm not going to pay you because you are quitting the company." He has that leverage, and he has every right to be able to do that. That is one of the reasons why Malachi Black had initially asked out from his contract, and I believe it was reported at the time that Tony was like, "Yeah, but I'm going to put a show cause on it, and you can't go wrestle anywhere on television." Well, if you can't wrestle on television as a professional wrestler, that's going to be really hard to get bookings and make money. So he had every right to be able to do that. But if you get fired with cause, more often than not, they're not going to put a show cause or anything on your on that termination agreement where you can't go work somewhere else because we're firing you with cause. That is usually a black stain for other companies to say, "I don't want to hire you." Now GCW will, but they're not going to pay the booking fee that Punk is going to be asking for. Impact might, but
if they have the money and if he wants to work there.
Yeah. especially because Punk got fired back in, I think, 04 or 05. And you can go listen to You Gotta Be Kidding Me on the same podcast network. And I believe they have all the details on one of their shows.
They do.
Oh, of course they do. It's Garrett Kidney.
Yeah.
Garrett Kidney is the smartest person about one singular subject in professional wrestling, and that is total nonstop action. As we put over our friends, it's Punk was trying to get out without having that clause, and he got it. But he also doesn't get paid anymore. He could have just went in there, been a good soldier, made millions upon millions of dollars over the next 3-4 years. Everybody would have been happy, and he could retire at 50. Multi-millionaire. Never have to do anything again. He could just sit in his apartment with Larry, with AJ Lee, his wife, and have fun. But no, he couldn't do that. He had to be CM Punk. CM Punk is CM Punk's own worst enemy. And here we are. It was pretty incredible. One of my favorite things to come from this, Fred, and I don't know if you saw this, and I don't know if you can hear the dogs in the background.
I definitely can.
Oh, that's Eclair. She's just so happy. On Monday, Hangman Page tweeted out an Instagram story. Happy Labor Day.
Yep.
Just great stuff. And all out, everybody had their working boots on. We had a phenomenal pay-per-view with a card that was kind of lackluster and lacked real build. Oh boy, did they deliver! You can never doubt a Tony Khan pay-per-view.
AEW is gonna have the best matches they can on pay-per-view. I mean, that's always the safe part of it. I still think it's fair to criticize the build to it to some extent, because it did feel kind of in certain parts. But
okay, so let's go over some other news. Sean Ross Sapp. I don't know what audio he did, but he did audio, and he basically burnt CM Punk as a source. Now let me break this down. This is kind of a synopsis, and I don't remember who collected all this information, but kudos
I
to
know
them.
John Carroll posted it. I saw that, but yeah.
Well, we'll give John credit because they rule. So let's go through this. This is a general synopsis of everything that Sapp has reported and done, and he spoke a lot with CM Punk, and we'll kind of go through it and we'll react. Says he's been in contact with Punk for months and months. Sometimes I get answers, sometimes I won't. Obviously, had contacts within his camp, people like Cash and Dax, like those who were close to him, and that he had broken numerous stories about Punk because of that. Says he and Punk mutually hate talking to each other. It's stressful for him. It's stressful for Sean Ross Sapp, etc. There have been times where Punk had been very open, including, "I hate this place." That's a quote. First time they talked was getting his side of Brawl Out. Reiterates that he had never spoken to the Elite outside of an interview, meaning Sean Ross Sapp. The vibe he got from Punk is he was apologetic for the scrum, but not to blame for the brawl. He got Punk's side of the Jack Perry incident, and not many people backed it up, which is what we have been hearing across the board. He sent him a congratulations about CM Punk's Cauliflower Alley Award. Punk was the happiest he had ever encountered after the Jack Perry fight, because I think he knew he was getting canned. That's my speculation. He hasn't heard from him since Wednesday. That was the Cauliflower Alley Award. Saw an interaction between Mox and Punk at the airport, which suggests they still have major heat. Wouldn't give Sean Ross that massive scoops, but would air his grievances. So kind of like just an ear to talk to. Sean doesn't believe he was trying to get fired, but didn't care if he did. He says it was clear by talking to Punk, and it's clear he talked to Hausman. Mike Johnson did a Scarcast panel. Isn't sure if they actually talked. Infers that most of the stuff coming from Punk rather than FTR. Sean says there was one situation where someone tried to give him false information. The person who wrote this believes that was FTR. And I
think there was a similar issue with FTR giving either Meltzer or Brian Alvarez, bad information, I think.
Wouldn't be shocking.
If I recall correctly, but that's been quite a while now.
Yeah. Lastly, he hasn't heard from him since. He did reach out and hasn't heard back from him, and he doesn't expect to hear back from him ever again.
Yeah. Now, my question for you, because I am not a real journalism, to quote Fandango, is that in journalism, what I've done as far as like reading about this, because I've been curious about this in other instances in the past unrelated to wrestling, is it sounds like there's basically two circumstances where it's considered ethical to burn a source to basically reveal that someone was giving you info anonymously, and that's if the person giving you information either gives you back, like lies to you, it makes you look like an ass, or else they give you information that they then take public, and that once they do that, you can say, yeah, it was, this person that told me this information. And I don't think either of those really apply here, which is interesting to me. It seems like he would now, I mean, it's not exactly the greatest puzzle in the world to figure out if where all this information was coming from when they said the Punk camp, like it was like one of two or three people, probably two really, because I can't imagine Cash getting involved in that from all accounts. But I don't know, it's kind of weird to me. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think this was ethical? Do you think it was the opposite of ethical?
It's riding a very fine line, because you're not explicitly outing him as a source for specific things here. Well, actually, he is. So this is tough, because how is he gonna, like? I'm kind of tripping over my words here. Let's use this hypothetical. If I were to have Kirk Cousins as a source, and I have Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson, and I've kept their names confidentially the entire time, and then Kirk Cousins wrongs me, let's say that, and then I go out and I just out everything Kirk Cousins has ever told me. Why in the hell should Jefferson and Hawkinson still trust me as a source? Why should they? Because I basically threw this other person under the bus. So, in my opinion, this is a mistake by Sean Ross Sapp. He's not just saying, "Hey, I have talked to Punk about things. He has been a source for me." If you leave it there, okay, that you're still outing a source, but you're not talking about specific instances. This is a lot of instances. And obviously he doesn't care about having Punk as a source moving forward. To me, it's about the integrity of your other sources. Why should they trust you and believe that they won't be outed at the same time? That to me is
that's my question.
Biggest issue.
Yeah, that's 100% my question, because to me, if you're like, insert any other wrestler in the world, whether it be, and I'm literally just pulling names out here, Jordan Oliver, or if you're Dustin Rhodes, or if you're, like The Miz, like I'm just pulling random names here, 100% random. If like you're any of those guys and you're like, I would like to leak information X, I don't know why you would, after this, be like, yeah, I better go to Sean Ross Sapp. I'm sure he'll take care of my anonymity. I don't know, man. Like, I 100% can get why you would want to do this, because I can only imagine what talking with CM Punk is like. Especially when it's obvious that like he's using you to get specific information out there. But that's also part of the deal, is it not? That like part of reporting is like, if someone gives you information to get out there, part of your analysis is, well, one, will this make me money? The $5 please aspect of things, but also it's the should I run this? You need to do analysis on that. You need to, is this newsworthy? And you should also like check if it's true. And like, again, I am not a journalist. I consider what I do just analysis. I have absolutely no sources in wrestling. Like nobody talks to me, and I'm okay with that. I just want to sit alone and watch whatever promotion I'm mainlining at the moment, I guess.
Listen, I want to preface this, and I don't know Sean Ross Sapp. I've spoken to him once. It was a weird conversation, but overall, he seems like a good human. This is a very, very odd route to take when based on everything that I've noticed, his business is getting scoops.
100%. Like that's the
trust him.
That's the thrust of his business.
This is wild to me, where he's explicitly outing details like right here. First time he got it, they talked was getting his side of Brawl out. Explicitly says that. I don't know if he reported that he specifically talked to CM Punk at the time, but if he got Punk to talk as an anonymous source, that's an ethical red flag. Specifically saying it, especially afterwards, if Punk didn't give him permission to like use his name, which we all know is an issue in wrestling journalism to begin with, but as a journalistic ethics, saying the vibe he got from Punk, like talking about details like that, if you don't have permission to actually out him as a source and he was speaking anonymously, that's an ethical red flag. Now, we don't know that Punk said that you can use my name, but based on the tone of this and based on everything we've heard, my instinct says Punk did not give him permission to explicitly use his name. That this is just got ethical red flags all over it. And if your business is getting scoops, man, I would not go to a person who does something like this with information anonymously. I would not. And this is like, I think wrestlers still will because it's wrestling and the ethics behind it are just so much different, but red flags everywhere. Yeah,
this just felt unusual to me. So I thought that was noteworthy. We'll talk. Let's go through the rest of the news real quick, and then I want to get round back to CM Punk. Jack Perry is still indefinitely suspended. Tony Khan confirmed that at the presser after All Out. Christian has signed a contract extension.
Hey, you want to know why he signed a contract extension?
Because he's awesome.
Because there wasn't a dad to stop him.
Good Lord. Where's Shad?
Listen, Christian is having the best run of his career, and we've said it multiple times. This is a very pro-Christian podcast.
He rolls.
Awesome. He's awesome. He wrestles in a cutoff turtleneck. He's in phenomenal shape. He's having great matches that are meaningful, and his promos are incredible. Like, this is... We've had issues with this company pushing guys who are older and not really focusing on young guys. They're using Christian now to work with young guys, and you can tell that Nick Wayne is probably going to join him at some point, and that can be huge because Nick Wayne can go in the ring. Odie, you can't drop your bone, you goober. But he's just not... He doesn't have the television charisma for promos, talking on a mic. You know who's going to learn that from? Christian.
Yeah, that'll help.
And push this guy to the moon, man. This guy rocks.
Yeah, I right now I am leaning Christian for my promo of the year. I think all his stuff's just fantastic, but that's another conversation. I'm just glad he's sticking around. And, he did that presser full character, except for the end where he was still kind of in character, but he got a rip on people for saying that he was a disappointing signing. And I want to say that I think I was not one of those people, but he rolls. So, yeah. Early All Out pay-per-view numbers, 100,000 plus buys, which is very good considering it was a week after the previous pay-per-view, and sold over or about 10,000 tickets for a gate of $800,000 per Tony Khan at that presser. We're getting monthly pay-per-views, and I think we've proven that they're going to be successful, because if you can get that many buys for a pay-per-view the week after All In, then there's no reason you can't get decent buys on a monthly basis.
Yeah. And we talked about it last week as far as the financial aspect. If you get 750,000 buys over 5 pay-per-views, but you can get that to like 1.5 million or even higher over 12, you're making more money. And you're still making a lot of money off of live gates. Well, right now it's not as much, but it's.
I mean, 800K is still good for Chicago, obviously.
I guess I'm inferring more towards Dynamite and Collision.
Yeah, the weekly TV is a problem. That's definitely a weak point right now.
It is, but like they're going to make money hand over fist. And the one thing that really stinks, and I think could hurt the television even more, is one of the benefits of these long pay-per-view gaps was you got like super dynamites where you had a title challenge, where you had like multiple belts on the line in one night, multiple big matches. I was at Quake at the Lake in Minneapolis. Darby Allin, Brody King in the coffin match. And then you had Jon Moxley defending the world title against Lionheart, Chris Jericho, and CM Punk returned that night. Like, you can have super shows. Well, those aren't going to happen much anymore with 12 pay-per-views. If that ends up being the case, which we believe it is, it's trending that way. So, I don't know, man. To me, we're in an interesting spot. And we knew it wasn't going to last this way forever. It was going to turn into we need to make money company. And I just hope a lot of the heart of AEW is still putting on great shows and keeping those in-depth storylines stays, even though there's the pressure of having to do X, Y, and Z. But yeah, this is the direction it was probably always going to take.
Yeah, it was inevitable once they had as much success as they've been having over the past couple years in general. Let's see. Collision rating was awful for this past Saturday. Now, there are weirdos out there who are insisting it's because CM Punk left the company. And while that number turning off the TV immediately after finding out Punk was not going to be there was damning, I also think you can't underestimate just the impact of college football returning as a real thing, not week 0. And I think you're going to see Collision being down in these numbers because all those previous episodes were not against competition that was as serious as college football. So that's just what's going to happen, and it's going to eat it. That's just the deal. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, and I'm sure Punk being gone won't help, but it's not like the primary cause. I don't think. I think it's like the secondary cause.
Yeah.
Sonny Kiss. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Sonny Kiss is done with AEW because of expiry of her contract. I actually forget the preferred pronouns. I think it's either his or her.
Sonny prefers both pronouns to my knowledge, where it's
but not they.
He, him, or her, hers. I think she likes both.
Okay, cool. I'll go with she, her for the purpose of this conversation. She left, or Tony Khan, I should say, left the door open to a return, specifically signing Stu Grayson. Sonny Kiss, I thought would have been a little more successful at the start of the promotion, but she was, I thought, pretty quickly eclipsed in terms of talent once they started making more and more signings, and there just wasn't enough improvement there to justify a bigger role. So she ended up in, I actually was intrigued by that Joey Janela tag team they teased for a couple weeks and that they had on Dark for a while. And then I guess they had a pretty decent feud on Dark that I don't think I ever actually watched any of, because even I have my limits. But I think she's charismatic as hell. And I just wish she was a better worker. It's, I think there's actually a comparison here between, I think both Sonny Kiss and Big Swole have similar skill sets, where I think if either had been given an opportunity to do more promos, they might have been able to get more stardom. But I also think that they really lack the in-ring skills to break through. I mean, Kiss is obviously better than Swole, but like relative to the men's division, I think is the gap like Kiss to the average men's worker compared with Swole versus the average women's worker when she was around. But yeah, I mean, I wish nothing but the best for Sunny Kiss. I think she's really talented, and hope maybe an opportunity elsewhere will really help out.
Yeah, that I think Kiss is one of those individuals where at the beginning, good hand, but there just wasn't enough of a future there with how this company has evolved for them to really stick around, and especially with losing out on Dark, where a lot of these people could stick around and still work. Kiss could be a really nice influx to the indie scene because there's some talent there. I don't think it's a major league talent, but it's, hey, this is a really good hand that should be floating all over the indies kind of talent. And there's a lot of merit to that. And we wish Sunny Kiss the absolute best.
And Sunny is also just 29. So there's still time. So, I guess, we'll see. No guarantees, obviously, but, big improvement is not out of the question.
Yeah, absolutely. What else do we have for news, sir?
We have just a couple more notes. CJ Perry, Tony Khan said that CJ Perry, aka Lana, is not signed to a long-term deal with AEW as of now. Made it sound like it was left open to possible opportunities in the future. So we'll see exactly what goes on with that storyline and Miro and the return of Hot and Flexible, which I'm going to pretend is CJ's ring name until proven otherwise. And Bandito probably returns later this month per Dave Meltzer. He had surgery after an injury suffered back in, I want to say, July in a match against Takeshita. But we hopefully will get Bandito back.
Yeah, and that was actually back June 14th.
June 14th,
you can
that's
believe
right.
that. Hey, getting Bandito back would be awesome. Bandito rules and is one of the young talents I hope AEW really tries to focus on pushing here moving forward, because there is a lot of really talented individuals. Let's talk about All Out, Fred.
All right.
Early numbers, 100,000 plus pay-per-view buys, 10,000-ish tickets for a gate of 800,000 per Tony Khan, and pretty good numbers considering that they've kind of burnt Chicago out as a territory, as a general whole. And this ended up being a great show.
Yeah, this show was really damn good. Now the pre-show was not very good. But it was once we got to the actual pay-per-view, especially the second half of it, or I really should say the last 2/3, I thought it was awesome. So what were your favorite parts of the show?
Man, this show was great. Honestly, I think my favorite part of the show is Ricky Starks finally got his match. He has that one match in the pantheon of his company where he can be like, yeah, I'm fucking here. This is my great match. This is the time where I was finally able to show that I am one of the best in the world. And I'm not just somebody on the roster who's waiting for an opportunity. I went out there and grabbed it by the balls.
Yeah.
And he and Bryan Danielson beat the ever-living shit out of each other. They were slapping each other in the face with that strap. They whipped each other mercilessly. And the finish, honestly, you know what that finish made me think of? They did the Austin Bret Hart WrestleMania 13 finish.
They did.
Like, it was great. And Ricky was like, no. And he knew he was screwed because Danielson took a little bit and he's like, oh, you can see in his face. It's just like, oh no. And chokes him out. And he just passes out. That's it.
His
Done.
facial expressions are always so great. And this was another example of that. Just
And
really.
he slowly went out. He would not tap. And he cut a great promo on Dynamite saying basically the same thing. Look, this was a face turn for Ricky Starks after that little short heel run with him against CM Punk. This was great. This was everything it needed to be. This was a 5-star match. Hands down. I don't know where it's going to end on my match of the year list, but AEW is becoming a gimmick company is not the right word. It's a gimmick match company. They have some of the Tony Khan verse has the best dog collar matches of all time, the best war games matches of all time. They've created their own matches with Stadium Stampede, Anarchy in the Arena, which have merged into kind of one and the same. And now they have the strap match. Would it have been better if it was a much better, a better build? Sure. But it didn't have to be because it was Bryan Danielson. And Danielson, the Dragon, fighting for the honor of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. That's enough. And these two made sure that you knew this was one of the best strap matches of all time, if not the best, because it's certainly in that conversation. This was everything. And Ricky Starks finally has that signature match. This isn't a moment company, but a signature match that defines how great he is as a professional wrestler. And I'm super, super happy for him.
Yeah, this ruled. I actually didn't have any 5-star matches on the show.
You fucking coward. How dare you?
I had 3 at 4 3/4 though.
Oh my God, really?
Including this
you
one.
are a coward.
Look, if I watch the match and I have questions about it being 5, then it's not 5. That's just, that's the rule. But yeah, I mean, I love this match, and I hope to God we can finally get past the stutter stepping with Ricky Starks, because he is tremendous. He's a great worker, and he is an high level promo and just charisma of just like a bottomless pit of charisma. Just like every time he's on screen, he comes across like a star. And I would have pushed him harder, especially in the second half of last year. I'm glad we're kind of getting there now. We just better follow up, because we can't do this let him go sit at home bullshit, right? This is not the time for that. He's gotta get a push, and it's gotta be like a hard push.
Make Collision the Ricky Starks show.
Sure.
Center it around Ricky.
You're not going to get a complaint from me about that. But Ricky Starks is awesome. And I mean, Bryan Danielson is Bryan Danielson. Of course, he's going to have an awesome match. Even if he's, apparently he really favored his right arm, by which I mean, like, he didn't throw a strike with it the entire match, according to himself in the presser afterwards. And, I mean, he could help anyone have a really good match, but this was a fantastic one. And Starks more than brought it that night. And every promo he's had the past couple of weeks have they've been great. They've been fantastic, and I'm just really excited to see what happens next with him.
Look, we've all known since Starks came into this company because of Cody, and that he was going to be something. And I'm going to give Joe Lanza credit, because I think Joe kind of discovered him before a lot of mainstream people, like he always does. And it said that Starks was going to be a star. And that was when he was in the NWA. And obviously he knows that his time in independent Texas wrestling, because Joe's been to a bunch of those shows, and he has really grown and developed on television, because there's a difference between having all the promo ability in the world and all that charisma, but he's developed it perfectly for television, because it just is a little different. Instead of just talking to a bunch of people in a crowd, you're trying to talk to people in a television audience. There's nuance to it. He's figured it out. He's improved. He's ready for that big push. If you were to strap him up in 2 months, I don't think anybody would complain about it, because he's at that level right now. I'm so excited for him and his future, and we are all better for it, being able to watch him every week.
Yeah, this is it's it's going to be extremely interesting to see just what happens next with him, what his next storyline is going to be, because he got the rug pulled out on him because of CM Punk's antics, and this is a guy who's, due to a lot of things beyond his control, has been start and stop at points in AEW's history. And I think this was just 100% what he needed to do to say, listen, I am that guy. Push me. Now, speaking of guys who got over in losses, Orange Cassidy, I think, was amazing in that main event against Jon Moxley. I think he did really a great job as like the face in peril, essentially. The guy who's been beaten down by wrestling too much and immediately faces a guy who will absolutely kill him when he's not at full strength, and he's not at full strength. So I love that match. I thought it was worked fantastically. Yeah, it was. I loved it.
You had to do it this way.
You did.
You had to.
I kind of talked myself into believing that you could have had him win that to help him out, but I think in the long term this will work better going forward.
Yeah, Orange Cassidy needed to lose his title, and I found it interesting that he came out on Dynamite this past week and explicitly said, they want me to go home, and I'm not gonna. Nah, I'll be here. And then Mox comes out and he just stands in the middle of the ramp. And then Darby comes out with AR Fox, and he and Darby kind of just look at each other. And I thought that was really interesting. I don't know if that means anything, but Darby's kind of got his hands in a bunch of cookie jars right now.
Yeah. Darby is all over the place right now, reaching almost CM Punk levels of ubiquity at this point. So yeah, I love that main event, and the other match I really liked was Takeshi and Omega, which was just a really great wrestling match that those two had. I think the story is really good that currently Callis has Omega's number. And despite being what I thought was a fantastic match, I thought it left some on the table for the next one too. So that was really impressive to me.
Yeah, I think you have to push Orange Cassidy to the moon now. He has gotten over with the fans on an incredible level. He is turned himself into one of the best workers in the company. Orange Cassidy, the gimmick being, I'm too good for this stuff. And he can't even do like a normal thumbs up because he's too lazy. And he got over with the kids. He got over with the crowd. And then he became the workhorse of the promotion starting last October 12th when he won the AEW International title from Pac. Impressive. Who thought that Orange Cassidy would be the epitome of old school territory booking in this company? Raise your hand. Anybody? Yeah, nobody? No? Yeah. Good on Orange Cassidy. Good on Tony Khan for really going through with this and going all out and building to this moment. There was a time during the match where I thought Orange Cassidy was going to win because Moxley was beating the ever-living piss out of him. But then Orange Cassidy just couldn't do anything else, and he just did the defying double middle fingers. Mox picked him up and gave him that high-angle Death Rider, and then Orange Cassidy just kind of laid in the ring for 5 minutes, and they faded to black with Orange Cassidy in the ring trying to get up. Just phenomenal stuff. He is a main eventer in this company now. If you didn't believe it before, you should believe it now, because there were plenty of people slapping 5 stars on this thing. I went 4 3/4 because I didn't think the story was phenomenal, but I didn't think the work quite matched up to a 5-star match.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually think it may have been. I went 4 3/4 on it as well. I thought it was a touch shy. Again, if it's not doesn't strike me as an instant 5, then I don't go with it as a 5. But I mean, just the collection of people that Orange Cassidy faced in in these international titles, I think, are really interesting. There was going back the first, let's just go through the defenses. I'm just going to read them off real quick. Number 1 against Rush and 10 in a 3-way. Number 2 was
that
against...
is locker room leader Roosh.
That's right.
We have to be clear.
Yes. Second was against Luchasaurus and Ray Phoenix in a 3-way. Orange Cassidy against Shibata was 3rd, and then Lee Johnson, Jake Hager, QT Marshall, Trent Seven, just in and out right there. Let's see, Trent Beretta, Kip Sabian, Jay Lethal, Lee Moriarty, Wheeler Yuta, Big Bill, Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, The Butcher, Drilistico, Buddy Matthews, Bandito, Daniel Garcia, Kyle Fletcher, Swerve Strickland, Daniel Garcia, Katsuyori Shibata, and Zack Sabre Jr. in a 4-way match at Forbidden Door. Lance Archer at Battle of the Belt 7, AR Fox, Johnny TV, Wheeler Utah, and Aaron Solo. Oh, and of course Penta just a week ago on Dynamite, and then of course the loss to Moxley. Just what a collection of names there. Just like a really, and every match was at least good for the most part, I think, if not great. So,
yep, great stuff, man. I'm thrilled for him. That reign is never going to be topped in this company.
It'll be hard.
I don't know if any of those matches were below 3.5. Most of them weren't below 4. Yeah, Eclair, I know you're excited about Orange Cassidy, aren't you? Yeah. But it's, I just can't say enough good things about these guys. I just can't.
You got to watch Eclair being on the mic. Nick Nemeth's going to burst in and start asking her who should go over in the main event of the next pay-per-view.
Well, Eclair is, for those who don't know, we adopted her a couple months ago. She's a 6-year-old French Bulldog, and she has some breathing issues because French Bulldogs, the flat faces, but she had the surgery to correct her nostrils. But when she plays, it makes those breathing issues a little worse. So, but she's a good, sweet girl.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty, it's a fantastic run. And he's getting talk about Wrestler of the Year, like the In-Ring Observer Award. And who can really I can't really say that that's a bad take, so
yeah. Let's talk about some of these other matches. Omega Takeshita. This match was, for feeling like a blood feud kind of match, started off really methodical, and normally I have issue with that. I kind of liked it here for the fact that Omega knew that Callis was in Takeshita's corner, and he knew that he had to play it calm, cool, and collective, because you absolutely knew that Callis was going to come in here. And I thought they set up the screwdriver distraction stuff brilliantly. Because if you noticed, Omega told Paul Turner to watch for the screwdriver. And then when he got him up for the One Wing Angel, Paul Turner was able to grab it out right away. And that kind of ended that distraction spot. I thought it was very well done. It was placed really nice in the match. And these guys started off a little slow, but they heated it up at the end, and Takeshita just wins. I thought that was important because you're establishing Takeshita as a big deal in this company. What better way to do that than beating Kenny Omega in a singles match? Not many people have beaten Kenny Omega in a singles match in the last, 8 years? Like 12? 13?
Yeah, very low number.
It's like Okada, Tanahashi, Naito, Moxley, now Takeshita, Toru Yano, Tomohiro Ishii. At Hangman Adam Page.
Vikingo at Triple Mania.
Vikingo. Like you're talking like a small handful. Jay White.
Christian Cage. If you said him already, I'm sorry.
Christian Cage. So we've got
Pac.
11. Did Pac never beat him singles?
Yeah, he did. AEW. All Out 2019.
He did?
Yeah, passed out in the Brutalizer, I think.
Oh, okay. So we've got 12. And the most prestigious of all of those is Toru Yano, and I just want that to be known.
Yes.
Yano has never gotten his title shot, and that's a bunch of bullshit. I want that to be known as well. Look, you're talking 12 guys who have beaten him in a singles match over the course of like 8 years, and there's probably a couple we're missing here and there.
Michael Elgin.
13.
Tugging at the collar.
13.
Cody.
Oh, wait. Cody. All right, 14. Like, we're trying to find names. This guy doesn't lose singles matches, and it means something if you lose to him. Most of those singles losses, by the way, a lot of them, G1 or world title matches.
Juice Robinson and Ishii going back through 2017 are the ones that we haven't said. Ishii, Tomohiro.
I said Ishii.
Oh, well, there you go.
Ishii beat him in the 2018 G1, got a title shot out of it, Destruction.
Yep. And beat him in the first round of the 2017 New Japan Cup.
Yep. Look, it's a big deal to beat Omega, and that's a huge feather in his cap. Now, where do we go from here? We're going to get something. I think we're going to end up getting a trilogy here, and I can't wait because Takeshita is starting to come into his own as an American wrestler. Because, look, style is different here. Oh, Hungee cat running. All right.
Yeah,
we've got the dogs. We got the cat. Everybody's here to celebrate the demise of CM Punk.
Didn't die.
I'm really excited, Fred. This is the way Takesha's going. He could be a world champion in 2 years. Like, within storyline, he's not going to go to the top right away, because he's dealing with this, and obviously MJF and Adam Cole have their thing. But within 2 years, I think it's very plausible. They're setting him up for a big, 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 big push.
Yeah. I mean, he's another guy that I think really benefited from the show. Although I'm going to say, have a hot take here, I guess. It kind of feels like maybe he didn't benefit from that match quite as much as Don Callis did. I feel like Don Callis may have benefited a little more from that win than Takeshita, even though it was a clean win, relatively speaking. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad take. Maybe that's just a bad read, but I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe he didn't get the boost one would have expected off that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but it's a good take. What else do we need to talk about with this show? We got to talk.
We got to talk meat.
I'll be honest. It's the only match on the show I haven't watched yet.
You haven't watched the meat match yet? Oh man.
No. Well, dude, it's Vikings opening week, baby, and I need to vent. Chromecast sucks. I don't know what the deal is. I have these 4K Chromecast, and they won't cast anything from my computer, and it's so dumb. So I'm using my computer for work, and I can't watch anything on my TV because of it. It sucks.
I may have a solution for you. There's this app. I'm not going to plug them on the air. What am I doing? They can hit the bricks. Give us money if you want to get plugged. I'll talk with you afterwards. But yeah, I mean, I loved Miro and Hobbs. I'm probably the high person on the planet on it, but I went 4 3/4 on that too. I just love big guy mean matches, and this was 100% that. Some people are down on it because of the crowd and kind of like them doing, I guess, a bit of a meme bit with it. But frankly, the match I thought worked so well that was better than that. So, yeah, I love that match. Just Miro and Hobbs throwing each other all over the place, and yeah, great stuff, I thought.
Yeah, and I'm going to watch it here today because I got so much work done while watching Dynamite last night because of week 1, and I just have to really play catch up. I did, and a plug here, I did a 3-hour NFL Intelligentsia with Joe Lanza for the Voice of Wrestling Patreon. You should go check that out. It was a lot of fun, and we started off talking about sicko college football because of course we did. But yeah, we spent 3 hours talking about the NFC, and it was a really good time. I think we have to talk about MJF. And obviously MJF and Adam Cole beat the Beaver Boys, John Silver and Alex Reynolds. But it was afterwards, MJF, and MJF did the hurt gimmick where they take him out because he's got a hurt neck and he comes back and they end up winning the match. But they're leaving, and guess whose music hits? Samoa Joe. And Joe's just walking in the ring and pushes MJF and just has the biggest smirk on his face. And if you remember, MJF was one of the security guards at that NXT show. I think it was it NXT Brooklyn where Samoa Joe was defending the NXT title, and he pushes him into the wall.
Yeah.
And then MJF goes and confronts him in the ring, and they start exchanging like blows. And then, of course, Samoa Joe gets him in a guillotine, which apparently is what CM Punk put Jack Perry into. And this is just great stuff, man. I love this.
Yeah, I like that angle a lot, and I liked what they followed up with it on Dynamite pretty well. I think that went a little...
Samoa Joe is a perfect pro wrestler.
Yeah.
If you had to create the perfect pro wrestler, it would be Samoa Joe. Like,
I was told for years it was Randy Orton. I've never been a big Chinlock guy, though. I gotta own up to that.
Well, if you want somebody who's going to work to your style so he can get pats on the back after the match, go get Randy Orton. Absolutely. But no, it's Samoa Joe. He's built like a tank. He can do high spots. Well, maybe not so much anymore, but he used to be able to do great high spots. And puts you in submissions, and he can do power. He can do a little bit of everything. Plus, he's charismatic as all hell.
Yeah, he is. Joe rules. And, I think, he's past his peak, obviously, in the ring. But as far as, like, the personality aspect of things, he's really good at being, Samoa Joe as a serious, title guy. So, yeah.
Yeah. Just great stuff. Okay, Claire, go get some water, honey. There you go. But overall, this show was just awesome. And Shane Taylor was good. The women's match was good. The baseline for the show was like 3.5.
Yeah. I feel like that's pretty good. I went like 3.25 for the World Tag Team title match, like the Better Than You Baby one, the Ring of Honor one. But everything else, I went 3.5 plus on the actual show.
Hey, you know what? That's not bad. That's not bad. Anything else we need to cover from All Out? Because I think we've hit all the major talking points.
I think we did. I think we covered All Out. You want to talk a little more CM Punk? Like, where do you think? I guess I should ask you. I want to ask you. Do you think overall CM Punk was a benefit or a hindrance to AEW as a company overall?
Right now, a benefit. We'll see about it being a hindrance because CM Punk brought more eyes to this company than they could have generated on their own as quickly as they did. And Punk had some great matches. The dog collar match with MJF was my match of the year last year. And he delivered in some high spots. He delivered great promos. He was a box office draw in a big way, both in television ratings and in gate sales. But how much will his impact and how he treated people and how the company has grown both positively and negatively since he joined, how is that going to impact things moving forward? That is we don't know. And I think it's a benefit so far, but I'm willing to change my mind.
Yeah, I think there's still, I think there's a lot of negatives. Obviously, I think he really was not worth it the last few months. Honestly, like you can say that Collision may not have got as high of ratings without him. They may not have even got Collision without him, which is fair. I think the creative on Collision the past 4 weeks or so prior to him getting suspended and then fired was pretty awful, because it really started to feel like the old Simpsons Poochie joke, where the cartoon within the cartoon, Itchy and Scratchy, gets that character added, Poochie, who was supposed to be cool and hip and appealing to kids, and gets plastered all over the show. And at one point, the executives of the show say, we want characters to be asking when Poochie's not on screen, hey, where's Poochie? And I feel like that's what CM Punk was on the last month of Collision. Like, it really got to the point that, like, CM Punk was, when we talk about, like, Adam Page being the protagonist of the company, we mean, like, he's the most important guy in the company at that point in time. But CM Punk is now, he was, like, the protagonist of the show in the sense that, like, people couldn't exist without circling around him. And it drew a lot of people into that orbit, and it felt like that they would just, it was like practically a 1986 Hulk Hogan push, like, just like the mega baby face the heel of the week would run into and die, and lose against them. And we got these like really long, multi-man tags involving Punk that really felt like house show main events more than anything that would, like met the AEW standard of match quality. So I think, just over the last month plus, that him being gone will improve the creative of the company. And we also get rid of this nonsense with the soft brand split, where people had to be, on the it's okay for them to be here list.
Yeah. I'm excited about the soft brand split being gone. We're going to maybe see the Elite on Collision, which I think is objectively a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is him. CM Punk being gone is going to open the door for so many people. And I'm personally excited for it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing I always thought about the brand split, such as it was, is that it was such a small number of people that were getting featured every week on Collision. That it felt like it was Punk, Starks, Joe, FTR, Bullet Club Gold, and then Chris Statlander and Diamante and Mercedes Martinez, and Willow Nightingale. So like, there's 13 people. It felt like it was just them that were going to be on the show with any regularity. And compared to what AEW usually is, where it has like a really wide group of people, and you don't necessarily see like guys every week. In fact, you may not see Adam Page for months on end, or that's a bad thing. Which kind of got spotlit a little bit last night in that segment with Swerve. Yeah, man, I think this will be good long term, just in terms of creative for the company. Does that mean that it'll be as effective as a draw? It may not, because CM Punk was still a star, but I also think he was constantly undermining his own ability to draw with all this drama. And the way that drama gets reported now is not like it was in 1996 or whatever. Everyone's online. Everyone has access to wrestling news, even if they aren't specifically looking for it. I don't know, even people that aren't going to like F4W online or Fightful or whatever, they aren't going to necessarily get correct information, but it's impossible for them to escape this the fact that this, some version of it is getting reported. So I think that's just I think he was rapidly decreasing his value as a draw, and I think if he had stayed around any longer, it might have got to the point where it was an obvious case of the negatives outweighing the positives. I mean, arguably already was, but just like even a blind person could see it, like that blindingly obvious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Punk is his own worst enemy by every metric imaginable. And it just, I'm going to be so happy when we're done talking about this guy, because there's just, oh my goodness. I can't. I'm going to lose my mind, Fred. I'm going to lose my absolute mind. And yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's still really interesting, I think. Not really in a good way, but it's interesting. And the thing with him is, it's amazing how fast he burned through goodwill. I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but what really shocked me about All Out in particular is that, outside of one short moment right after the Young Bucks entrance, there was not a single CM Punk chant or anything along those lines that I could hear on TV. There may have been some short-lived ones in the building, and it sounds like that was the case, but they quickly got shut down by other people. And only when like the people that were most associated with, the opposite, on the other side of CM Punk's drama were on screen was there any kind of like reference to him from the fans. And I think that's really damning, because it's in Chicago, and Chicago is, he's arguably the last regional star of wrestling, with that kind of ability to pop one specific market to a high level. And I think he just exhausted everyone, not just the people he worked with, but the fans. It's very astonishing to me. It's kind of impressive, not in the good way, but it's impressive.
Yeah. Impressive, I think, is a really nice word for it. I'm trying to think here, Fred. Is there anything else that we need to talk about?
No. I mean, Dynamite last night, I thought was a fine show. Like, like everything on it was close to 3.5 stars, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I
will say my favorite gimmick was Roderick Strong wins his quarterfinal match, and the Kingdom rushes in to put the neck brace on.
Yeah, that was that and the the headshot of him with the glasses and neck brace on to hype the match with Trent. Breaking Taz, I think the first time popped up in particular was great. Just absurd. I kind of like it, but they still I still kind of hate that they made him look like a total geek to get here. But now we got him outright acting like a heel. So okay. Yeah. Emi Sakura should be put on TV more. She's obviously better than like Sky Blue or whoever. Like a fair number of the women's division. The idea that that she doesn't get anything at all typically is really sad, I think. And the fact that that match was as good as it was in just like 4 minutes was really impressive, I thought. So hopefully we'll get more of her on TV. I'm not very optimistic about it, but I hope they do. And I think that's really more or less it as far as big takes.
I think the thing with Emi Sakura, one, Saraya tweeting at her that she'll never get Freddie Mercury was great. And two, Emi Sakura actually being at Wembley and recording herself crying in the crowd while We Will Rock You was playing.
Yeah.
Oh, good God, was that great? It's taking what you have available to you and working it into canon. I like kudos to these two. just great stuff. Great stuff. We thought we were going to go 3 hours here today talking about all the CM Punk stuff, but Punk really overshadowed a lot of everything else that happened on the pay-per-view. And it's going to be a little bit of a shorter show today, but we are going to make sure that we're here covering everything else, All Elite Wrestling for you moving forward. And we're just glad to be rid of CM Punk. Super glad to be rid of CM Punk. You can follow us on Twitter at GoodBadHungee. You can follow Fred on Twitter at Flagrant Wrestling.
No, Twitter's dead.
Oh, you did kill your Twitter?
It's still there, but and I barely use it, but I'm just sick of the gross website.
Yeah. Well, I'm still on there at The Real Forno because it's a good part of what my profile is as a sports journalist. And you can find us both on Blue Sky. And woo, Blue Sky. I don't think I've logged in like over a week. So I know. But maybe it'll catch on. Who knows? Hopefully it's not the next Google Plus. I love Google Plus, but it just didn't happen. And we'll be back next week to talk more All Elite Wrestling and give you from a Grand Slam preview for everything that we know. Until then, good riddance, CM Punk.
Peace out, everyone. Have a good day.
Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and Zero One. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.